Picture 1964. Leather-clad figures astride gleaming British motorcycles, engines roaring down the North Circular Road at speeds that would make your heart stop. They weren't criminals. They weren't hooligans. They were Britain's rockers, and today we're discovering what they really looked like, what they actually wore, and why an entire generation chose leather, speed, and rebellion over everything their parents' world offered them. This is the true story. Rockers wore heavily decorated leather motorcycle jackets, often adorned with metal studs, patches, pin badges, and sometimes an SO Gasman trinket. But this wasn't fashion for fashion's sake. It was pure necessity. When you're racing at 100 miles per hour on a Triumph Bonneville, leather becomes your second skin, your only protection between flesh and tarmac. The jacket was thick, heavy enough to survive a slide across concrete, worn so frequently it became molded to your body, as personal as fingerprints. The rocker fashion style was born out of necessity and practicality, with jackets often made by Lewis leathers and gold top, costing several weeks' wages but lasting a lifetime. These weren't department store purchases, they were investment pieces that had to be broken in like boots, stiff and unforgiving when new. The studs weren't decoration, they were armor and identity. Each patch told a story, each pin badge declared allegiance, each scuff mark proved you'd actually ridden rather than just posed. Your jacket became your second identity, representing everything you stood for: toughness, practicality, and uncompromising authenticity. Rockers wore tall motorcycle boots, often made by Lewis leathers and gold top, or brothel creepers, with engineer boots reaching halfway up the calf. Look at photographs from the Ace Café in 1963, and you'll see those boots, black leather scarred from gear changes and road contact, worn smooth where they rubbed against the gear lever. These weren't fashion boots with zips and fancy stitching. They were working boots designed for controlling hundreds of pounds of motorcycle at terrifying speeds. The boots protected ankles from hot exhaust pipes, gave grip on foot pegs during high-speed cornering, and provided vital protection if you came off at speed. Some rockers wore winkle pickers with sharp, pointed toes, though these were less practical for riding. The serious riders stuck with proper motorcycle boots, and you could tell how long someone had been riding by their condition. New boots meant you were a novice. But boots worn smooth, with scuff marks and oil stains, and that particular smell of old leather and petrol, those boots told everyone you were the real thing, someone who'd earned their place through miles ridden. Did you own a pair of motorcycle boots in your youth? The rocker hairstyle, kept in place with Brylcreem, was usually a tame or exaggerated pompadour hairstyle, as was popular with 1950s rock and roll musicians. Greased back, slicked down, shining under streetlights like polished jet. The pompadour was a statement of allegiance to American rock and roll culture, to Elvis and Gene Vincent and Eddie Cochran. You'd work Brylcreem through your hair with practiced fingers, the front swept up and back in a wave that defied gravity and convention. American rock and roll was the preferred music, with Elvis, Eddie Cochran and Gene Vincent, whose image, especially their greased back hair, was widely imitated. You'd spend 20 minutes in front of a mirror getting it right, using enough Brylcreem to slide a comb through without snagging. The hair stayed in place even under a helmet, though many rockers rode without one, preferring speed to safety. The greased hair marked you as a rocker as surely as the leather jacket did, a hairstyle that required commitment and maintenance, deliberately anti-establishment, connecting you to a transatlantic tradition of rebellion and rock and roll. When they rode their motorcycles, rockers usually wore no helmet or wore a classic open-face helmet, aviator goggles, and a white silk scarf to protect them from the elements. That white scarf became iconic, trailing behind riders as they roared through London at night, a flash of white against black leather, visible from streets away. It was romantic in a way few other rocker elements achieved, that pure white silk streaming in the wind, catching street lamp light, announcing your arrival before anyone heard your engine. The scarf served practical purposes beyond visual appeal. It kept your neck warm in British winter when freezing wind could cut through any gap in your clothing, protected against wind chill at speed. and could be pulled up over your mouth and nose when weather turned truly foul. But it also looked magnificent, that pure white silk against the grime of the city, remaining somehow pristine even in the dirtiest conditions. It was both functional and romantic, perfectly capturing what rockers were about. Practical people who nonetheless understood the power of image, working-class youth who appreciated beauty and style. Other common items included t-shirts, leather caps, Levi's or Wrangler jeans, and leather trousers, with denim being the overwhelming choice. The jeans were Levi's 501 seconds, button fly, heavyweight denim that could withstand road rash if you came off. They were never designer, never pre-distressed by a factory. The wear came from actual riding, actual living, from sliding on and off motorcycle seats, from engine heat, from oil splashes and petrol spills. The indigo would fade in patterns unique to each rider. Rockers would wear those jeans until they could practically stand up on their own, stiff with oil and road dirt. Some paired them with leather trousers for extra protection. But denim was king because it was cheaper, easier to move in, and carried American rebel associations. The jeans got tucked into motorcycle boots, creating that distinctive silhouette that said, "Rocker," from 50 yards away on a foggy night. You'd pair them with a plain white t-shirt underneath your jacket, sometimes with cigarettes rolled into the sleeve, creating that James Dean look that never went out of style. Popular was a patch declaring membership of the 59 Club of England, a church-based youth organisation that later formed into a motorcycle club with members all over the world. The 59 Club patch was worn with genuine pride, showing you were part of something bigger, part of a community that understood what motorcycles, freedom and brotherhood meant. Other patches might declare allegiance to particular cafes, show you'd completed certain runs or achieved certain speeds. Each patch was earned, never bought. Biker Reverend Bill Shergold would visit the Ace Café and invite young people to join his 59 Club, a motorcycle group that promoted positive values whilst respecting the rocker lifestyle. The patches weren't random decoration. Each one meant something profound, whether it was your club, your cafe allegiance, your racing achievements, or favourite band. Your jacket became a visual autobiography, a wearable record of everywhere you'd been, everything you'd done. Other rockers could read your entire history just by looking at your back panel, understanding immediately whether you'd earned your place or were just playing dress-up. A 1960s cafe racer would typically be an English parallel twin motorcycle with low-mounted clip-on or Ace handlebars with rear-set footrests. We're talking Triumph Bonnevilles, BSA Gold Stars, Norton Commandos, the holy trinity of British motorcycling. These bikes sounded like thunder rolling through city streets, that distinctive parallel twin note you could recognize from blocks away. The Bonneville was king, 650 cubic centimeters of raw power, capable of genuine 100-mile-per-hour speeds, beautiful enough to worship. The most significant machine of the rocker glory days was the Triton, a custom motorcycle made of a Norton featherbed frame and a Triumph Bonneville engine. The Triton used the fastest racing engine combined with the best handling frame, creating something that could out-corner and outrun almost anything. Rockers would customize relentlessly, stripping away anything unnecessary, fitting clip-on handlebars that forced you into a racing crouch, removing heavy mudguards, anything to gain speed and handling advantages. The bike wasn't just transport, it was your identity, your freedom, your rebellion made tangible, and you'd rather starve than let it fall into disrepair. When riding, rockers usually wore no helmet or wore a classic open-face helmet and aviator goggles, with safety being decidedly secondary to style and sensation. This was long before helmet laws made them compulsory in 1973, when riding bareheaded was perfectly legal. The open-face helmet gave you peripheral vision, let you feel the wind, kept you connected to the road. These helmets were simple affairs, usually black, sometimes with a peak, lined with leather padding. The aviator goggles were ex-RAF surplus mostly, big round lenses that gave you that fighter pilot look whilst protecting your eyes from stones, insects, and the sheer force of wind at 100 miles per hour. Some rockers wore leather caps adorned with metal studs and chains, though these became less common as the 60s progressed. The look was part military surplus, part racing heritage, entirely practical whilst remaining stylish. The open helmet let you hear your engine properly, let you smell the night air, let you feel fully present in every riding moment in a way that modern riders will never experience. Rockers took what was essentially a sport and turned it into a lifestyle, dropping out of mainstream society and rebelling at the points where their will crossed society's expectations. This wasn't about causing trouble for its own sake. It was about choosing freedom over conformity, speed over security, living now over saving for later. Rockers worked in factories, offices, warehouses, doing dead-end jobs that paid just enough to keep the bike running. They endured Monday to Friday, counting down hours until Friday evening when real life began. For these speed-hungry daredevils, the motorcycle was more than transport. It was a statement of outlook, a resolute assertion of a maverick lifestyle that offered escape from dead-end monotony of work and home. They lived for Friday nights at the Ace Café, for burn-ups down the North Circular, for record races where you'd bet you could ride to Hanger Lane roundabout and back before the jukebox song finished. The rocker mentality was fundamentally about authenticity and courage, about being genuinely yourself rather than what society wanted, about understanding that the point of being alive wasn't to be safe, but to experience intensity, to feel truly alive. The Ace Café, opened in 1938 on London's North Circular Road, was heavily damaged in a 1940 air raid, then rebuilt in 1948, just in time to become the spiritual home of British motorcycling. It was open 24 hours a day, which meant rockers could meet there anytime, turning it into their headquarters, their sanctuary, the one place in London where they belonged completely. The cafe served strong tea, greasy bacon sandwiches, full English breakfasts, all at prices working-class youth could afford. During its heyday in the 1950s and 1960s, the Ace would attract large groups of rockers in evenings and weekends, with the car park becoming a display ground for customized bikes. This wasn't just a cafe, it was a temple to speed and machinery, where you'd compare bikes, swap stories, plan runs to the coast, and participate in legendary record races that defined the culture. Someone would drop a coin in the jukebox, select a Gene Vincent or Eddie Cochran song, then race around a predetermined route trying to get back before the record finished. The smell of engine oil, bacon frying, and strong tea became the scent of freedom, an olfactory memory old rockers carried decades later. So there you have it. 10 elements that defined what Britain's rockers really looked like in the 1960s, from the practical leather and boots to the romantic white scarf, from the greased pompadour to the thundering British twin. Not the caricature the newspapers painted of violent hooligans, not the folk devils the media created, but real young people who chose leather, speed, and rock and roll over the grey conformity their parents' generation offered. What strikes you most about the rocker look? Could you see yourself in that white scarf and leather jacket, racing through London at midnight? Do you remember seeing rockers on the streets, or perhaps you were one yourself, part of that legendary generation? Share your thoughts below, because understanding what rockers really looked like helps us understand a pivotal moment in British youth culture, when ordinary working-class kids decided that speed, style, and solidarity mattered more than safety, savings, and playing by the rules. The rockers may have faded, the cafes may have closed, the legendary bikes may be in museums, but the attitude remains, and somewhere tonight, someone's pulling on a leather jacket, kicking over a British twin, and keeping the legend alive.